We always woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. I remember waking up to that and getting out of bed and brushing my hair 100 times because that's what you had to do. Mama had helped me put up my clothes the night before and put on my shoes. I was so excited. Going to school was going to be entering a big world, being able to cross the street, and then I'd walk with Meg and Jerry and Marshall Jr. and Louise, and we'd all go to school. And I wouldn't be the little kid left behind. Marshall Jr. was a year older than my brother, and Louise was a year older than me. And we were best friends. We lived on a college campus. We were allowed to go to these big bonfires twice a year at the college. And afterwards, we could sleep over at each other's houses. And Mama said, "Now, Missy, you look just fine, and now Daddy will walk you to school." So I handed Daddy my hand, and we went off to school. And I remember, too, because I had to run to keep up, because my daddy had big, long legs. And I didn't want to run, because that wouldn't look like I was a big kid. So I skipped. I can remember skipping, because that looked okay. That looked like I was having a good time. So we skipped school, and he took me in and introduced me to my teacher. Her name was Miss Wilcox, and she smelled like roses. And I looked around the room, and I knew about half the kids, because they either went to our church or their parents worked on the faculty. So I could hardly wait for recess. And Miss Wilcox came, and she told us that we would go down and that we would play with half of the first and second and third grades. So I started to walk around to look for Marshall and Louise, but I couldn't find them. So 20 minutes went, and I went back into class. And we did spelling, and that was exciting. It was a good day. Things were going well. And then lunch came, and I thought, okay, I can find Marshall and Louise now. I walked all around the playground. It was really hot. I saw a couple of the church kids, but I couldn't find my friends, Marshall and Louise. So the bell rang, and I went back in. And then it was 2:30, and my sister was there to walk me home, because she was 12. And then we got almost home. And I said, "Meg, I didn't see Marshall Jr. and Louise. Can we stop at their house?" She said, "No, I don't think so. Besides, I have to go to the bathroom. Come on, let's race." And so she took off. And I remember I ran after her, and then I felt all hot and tired and little again. And I tripped going up the stairs, and I got in the kitchen, and Mama was there. Mama said, well, here's my big girls. Tell me all about your day. So I did. I said, "Oh, Mama, it was fun, and I'm the best speller in the class. But, Mama, I never found Marshall Jr. and Louise. Can we call them to come over now?" And the kitchen just got real, real quiet. And Meg said, "Mama, she doesn't know. We didn't tell her." And this little baby girl in me just screamed. Said, "Then tell me what? I'm not a baby. Tell me, what is it?" And then Mama said, "Baby, white children and colored children don't ever go to school together. Marshall Jr. and Louise will never be in school with you." And I remember I was just stunned. I started to cry. And Meg, who didn't always try to comfort me, did then. And she said, "Oh, baby, it's all right. They go to another school, and they don't mind. They have other friends, and you'll have other friends, too. You don't need them anymore. You'll see, it's okay." And I just remember running out, and I went into my closet that was dark and little and curled up in a little ball, and I just thought I was never coming out again. I thought going to school was going to open up a great big world to me. And instead, it started to close it down. I feel stunned all over again just talking about it. I remember, Tony, when I had young children myself, and it was when all the whites were boycotting the schools and setting up private schools in the South. My sister had older school-age children, and she said, "My children will walk the line." I said, "Meg, they could miss years of school," and that I wasn't at all sure that I would have the belief that it would take to have my children miss 2 or 3 years of school while they walked a picket line. That I probably would send them where they could get an education, where they would learn to read. They're only going to get that time once. I didn't like myself very much. I did hospice work for many years, and one woman I cared for, I left on a Friday afternoon, and I said, "Bye, Mrs. B. I'll see you Monday." She took my hands in hers and said, "Stay well, my dear. Be clear and do the best you can." Sometimes the best you can do is not enough. If there is anything that is primally important in the world, it's the ability and willingness to be part of each other's lives. I don't think we try very hard. I wonder if we ever will.